And now, the general weather around Alaska. Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Sunday, January 7th, 2024. And if you'd like additional weather information, you can go online to the National Weather Service's online presence, weather.gov. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S., Hawaii and Alaska lower left with tabs for the territories as well. And if you point and click anywhere on these maps, it'll pull up a specific local forecast with any relevant watches, warnings, or advisories. And we check the map. This Sunday afternoon, we have a departing winter storm in the northeast. It's dumped upwards of locally a foot of snow in some areas, and we have flood watches and advisories along areas of the mid-Atlantic, including New Jersey down into Maryland. And then winter storm watches, winter storm warnings, blizzard warnings for the central U.S. Winter storm warnings include Des Moines, Omaha, 6 to 10 inches of snow on the way there for tomorrow into tomorrow night. Blizzard warnings here, Texas, Oklahoma, Panhandle, southeast Colorado, southwest Kansas, 6 inches of snow with 65-mile-an-hour winds. We have hard freeze warnings for areas of southern Arizona back into southeast California, and then a smattering of other winter-related advisories across the interior west up into the Pacific Northwest. Now, here in Alaska, we continue to have ground blizzard conditions along areas of the eastern Arctic coastline. This has been a prolonged event that's been ongoing since the past week. Conditions will slowly start to improve from west to east, though over toward Kaktovik, we expect those conditions to persist into Monday afternoon. Now, we also still have some wind and snow, elevated water levels along areas of the west coast as we go through tonight into Monday. And then winter weather advisories are in effect for the eastern Kenai coastal areas of the coastal mountains, Chugach Mountains around Prince William Sound. And a few inches of snow will likely fall in the Anchorage Bowl this Sunday evening into early Monday morning, which will impact the morning commute there. Advisories are also in effect. Winter weather advisories are 3 to 5 inches of snow in parts of the Panhandle through Monday morning, and then Tuesday onward. Tuesday through much of the upcoming week should see clearing skies in the Panhandle and some much colder temperatures, perhaps some of the coldest we'll see here this winter season. Looking at the FAA airport webcams, dead horse, ground blizzard earlier this Sunday afternoon, 9 degrees. As you look upward, you can see kind of the bluish sky, but as you look toward the horizon ground, it's just that blowing snow being whipped around. Now, Haisley showing snow and blowing snow there in the into the interior with the temperature at 8 above. Some of that snow is becoming more patchy in the interior, but there still will be some remnant areas. And then Whittier getting some snow and fog, 34 degrees. That's part of that winter weather advisory along the eastern Kenai, including places like Moose Pass, Turnagain Pass. Those areas could pick up locally heavier snow upwards of a foot. And then some of that moisture is going to be snow that falls in the Anchorage area later this Sunday evening through early Monday morning. And then in the Panhandle, looking westward, from Gustavus, an approaching front, the lower cloud cover with that front coming in off the Gulf. And the snow will be developing there as we head into this evening and for the overnight period. And perhaps 3 to 5 inches of snow in some areas there of the Panhandle. So here are the current watches, warnings, advisories. We still have blizzard warnings here along the eastern Arctic coast, especially new exit Dead Horse to Kaktovik. Conditions will persist the longest in this area around Barter Island and Kaktovik into Monday afternoon. Advisory still around Utqiagvik down through Wainwright. Still some blowing snow, but not as severe as it was here during the past week or earlier in the weekend. Winter weather advisory for some blowing snow, Gobbler's Knob, and the lower Dalton Highway as you go through some of the passes there outside of Fairbanks. Wind advisory till 9 p.m. for this area around Donnelly, Delta Junction, Upper Richardson River. Winds could still gust around or just over 50 miles an hour into early Sunday evening. And then along the west coast, we have a deep area of low pressure that's filling, but it's just east of St. Matthew Island, heading up here toward the Russian coast. Still some areas of snow and blowing snow all along the coastline here of the Seward Peninsula, as well as down here along Norton Sound into the lower Yukon Delta and over toward St. Lawrence Island. Earlier there was some water that came up around Hooper Bay because there were southeasterly winds coming into Hooper Bay that caused the water levels there along the coast to briefly be elevated with this storm as it came, pushed a front inland. Now, along the Gulf Coast, we have the winter weather advisories, eastern Kenai, especially Moose Pass, Turnagain Pass, on up into areas of western Prince William Sound. Locally, a foot of snow could fall in some areas there through midnight. And then along the northeastern Gulf Coast into the Panhandle, Yakutat down through Gustavus, eastward through Juneau, as well as Ketchikan and Metlakatla. 3 to 5 inches of snow could fall this Sunday night into Monday morning. And as I mentioned, Anchorage area will see a period of snow here later this Sunday evening through early Monday morning. At least a few inches of snow, maybe a little more in some of the hillside areas, but certainly enough to impact the morning commute. And much of this weather, the initial culprit for all of this bad weather is this low out here in the central Bering Watch as it lifts its way northward now. It's passing up just northeast of St. Matthew Island. It's going to pass just west of St. Lawrence Island and then up into the Gulf of Anadyr on Monday. And we have this big front extending along it. Secondary lows developed just off the Kenai today. Not especially strong low. It's very common for that to happen. We have actually a couple other weaker low centers that'll be along this front that is currently pushing into the Panhandle and will be accompanied by some accumulating snow tonight. Yakutat on over toward, as I mentioned earlier, Pelican, inland toward Juneau and Gustavus, and then also Ketchikan and Metlakatla. Further north, we continue to have these brisk easterly winds along the Arctic coast thanks to high pressure here, strong low there. You get that big pressure difference. That's why we have those strong winds that have been so persistent there along the Arctic coast this weekend and actually going back last week because we had a storm previously take a similar track. So here is the low as of this Sunday afternoon, a 957 low just northeast of St. Matthew Island, this occluded front across the southwest interior, secondary low just off the Kenai, and then this is the front that's pushing up toward the Panhandle. It's going to bring a period of snow in there for this Sunday evening into Monday morning. Not a big storm, but enough to bring in some measurable snowfall. And of note, we have this high pressure sitting out here over northwest Canada further inland. What's going to happen as we go into late tonight, we find that front pushing up toward the Panhandle and then just kind of beginning to weaken. The low that's out here in the northern Bering will be west of St. Lawrence Island by early pre-dawn hours of Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, the low lifts up into the Gulf of Anadyr and it weakens. That was the big weather player for much of the western portion of the state, but notice still tight pressure gradient around Kaktovik. So this area here could see the ground blizzard conditions hold on a bit longer, even into Monday afternoon. There's a secondary low coming up out in the North Pacific. It's rather compact and it's not weak by any means, but that's going to push more toward British Columbia coast. What's going to happen is between this high here and that low coming in there, that's going to increase the northeasterly flow across the Panhandle, and that's going to draw down some colder air. So the Panhandle will see clear to partly cloudy skies and some colder temperatures as we go into the upcoming week, especially Tuesday into Friday. Some areas here will see nighttime lows single digits and teens as that cold air is from that offshore flow coming in out of northwest Canada. So looking at Tuesday afternoon, weak trough lingers here along British Columbia coast to just off of the southern southwest Panhandle into the northern Gulf. Here's another low coming up out of the North Pacific. This one will not be as strong as the past two. The last two lows that came up out of there were powerhouses with hurricane force winds. This one won't be quite that strong. Still could have some storm force winds or storm force gust around it, but not like the last two. And a little quieter weather will kind of settle in here across the mainland here, at least as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. So looking at temperatures, near a little above freezing outer southern western portion of the Panhandle Monday morning. Areas, though, will be seeing some snow, say around Ketchikan, Metlakatla, as well as you get up north of Sitka and through these areas, Juneau on through the icy corridor there. You could see 3 to 5 inches of snowfall, not as much, maybe an inch or two up toward north of Haines and up toward the Canadian checkpoint there. But otherwise, interior, snow, Anchorage Bowl, some lingering snow along Prince William Sound. And temperatures on Monday afternoon We'll still be back up above freezing, say 37-ish there, Sitka down through Craig and back toward Ketchikan. 28 below freezing there at Skagway. Near freezing Anchorage as well as over toward Cordova. And then for Tuesday morning, we expect temperatures to get a little colder here along northern inner portion of the Panhandle. And if skies clear out, some areas will be in the single digits and teens, 2 below there, the Copper River Basin. Tuesday afternoon, we expect temperatures to stay below freezing over the northern part of the Panhandle. Outer coast could still see mid-upper 30s for highs. A bit colder around the Anchorage Bowl, not as mild as it was the past couple of days. In the far north, coldest readings will be here along the Alcan border, Yukon Flats, Northway, at least 15, maybe 20 below. In fact, Northway and Tok Junction were 29 below zero for the state's low temperature this Sunday morning. And notice in the west, because of the effects of that storm that's still lifting up through eastern Russia Monday afternoon, we expect temperatures to be in the 20s and daytime highs could be in the upper 20s along the Seward coastline, Norton Sound, Imanak, in those areas, but still below zero upper Yukon Flats and around Northway. And then cold temperatures Tuesday morning, 25, 30 below common here through the eastern Yukon Flats near the Alcan border. Definitely trending colder, and we expect some colder temperatures, as I mentioned, to settle into the Panhandle as a result as well. Tuesday afternoon highs will not be as warm as they were. That air that was pulled up out of the lower Bering, North Pacific, will have modified back down into the teens to near 20 degrees for Tuesday afternoon. And on the southwest coast, we had temperatures up near freezing. There was a lot of melting of the ice here around Bristol Bay, and with the strong winds breaking it up, it really did a number on the ice. That ice should start to redevelop in the week ahead. But temperatures for morning lows in the 20s, daytime highs still near freezing here along the Kuskokwim, Bristol Bay areas, including Dillingham, King Salmon, and then in the 30s, upper 30s along, extending out into the eastern central Aleutians. Little cooling down again, teens for temperatures, Bethel on up the Yukon and Kuskokwim rivers, even 7 above there at McGrath, and a little below freezing along the Alaska Peninsula. But daytime highs should get back up only near 20 in the interior of the Southwest, maybe back up around 40, especially from around Dutch Harbor westward in through the central Aleutians around Adak. And looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook centered on mid-month, January 15th. Overall, temperatures are expected to average a bit above normal across the mainland. Below normal, though, a bit below normal here in through the Panhandle. And precipitation, as a result, we expect a little below normal temperatures and precipitation here in the Panhandle, which would imply the colder, drier air coming in for the week ahead. Could linger into next weekend. And then areas of the mainland, maybe precipitation average a bit above normal here, especially along and north of the Alaska Range all the way to along the Arctic coast.